Hello, welcome to Talent Matters, the recruiting podcast of dreams. I haven't reeled that one out for a while, so I thought it's time to bring that one back out again. So welcome, thank you for joining us. Today we are talking about one of my favorite subjects, job boards, very, very hotly debated and discussed topic over the last, 20 years. And I am joined by a fellow job board expert extraordinaire in Lee Biggins, CEO and founder of CV Library. Hello, Lee. How are you doing?
Hi, Dave. I'm very well, thank you. Happy New Year to you and everyone.
Happy New Year. How's your 2023 going so far?
Well, it seems to. I always feel like the recruitment action gets a little bit delayed every year. I mean, we used to like 4th of January was like a massive day for us. And then it feels like it's shifted to like the 9th or something. And now I feel like it shifts to like the second week or third week of Jan. But no, we've had a cracking start to the year. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's good to hear. Normally in line with school holidays and trying to sort out childcare for your kids that you thought were going back to school on the 2nd of January, but you find out they're going back on the 5th. So normally some last minute childcare rushing around plans. So that normally delays things. Lee, I normally give everyone a bit of a title on Talent Matters, and I was pondering this one, and I just want to see how it fits. So I was thinking of the king of the job boards, but you're a bit too young to be a king, so you'd be a young king. Then I was thinking, well, princes are not getting a good rap at the minute, so I've decided I think you might have to be the king. You might have to be the king of the job board. You might have to wear that one. How's that crap?
That was very kind of you. I'll take it. I've got a little bit of I did have a gingery beard, but now it's got a bit grey, so I think maybe I won't quite shit the king's title after all.
Let's definitely stick with the king. So, I mean, you've been around pretty much since the start of the job board world, 20 something years. Can you fit a 20-year intro into 30 seconds? Don't know.
I can certainly try. Well, I had the idea in 99. Went down the pub and found somebody who could help me build the website in 2000. So I guess October 2000, by the time we got live, we actually did have a limited liability partnership, and then we made the company limited company 2003. So sometimes it looks like we've not been quite around quite as long as we have. But yeah, we started very modestly for £9,000, launched a CV database, realised a couple of years later that actually there was a lot of demand for the job side and the application. So we launched the job board on top, but stuck with CV Library. From an SEO point of view back then, actually probably would have been nice to have had the web jobs in it. But we survived. But look, we had a fantastic time from 2003 up to the recession. We weathered the recession well, battened down the hatches, grew our customer service, always knew how to look after our clients and did a fantastic job at customer service, as we still do today. We've been growing ever since in every way. And as you know, our entry into the US market in 2014, it's now started to really come into fruition. We've had a good last, especially the last 6 months in the US market, and have really turned a corner. And ambitions to be a global job board player now.
Fantastic, and I'm sure you will be as well. I mean, it's an excellent business, and you mentioned about support, customer service. I can vouch for that for certain, and it's been really interesting and good to watch. The growth of CV Library over these last 20 odd years. So kudos to you for that. Absolutely. Now I want to get stuck into a very hot topic of job board prices. A lot of job boards have increased rates of late. And the common kind of complaint or comment that I get from my clients is, oh, it's just putting a little job on a job board. It doesn't cost them anything to put that on there. And of course it does, but I thought, who better to ask than you around, some of the costs that are incurred for that single job or whatever it is. Running a job board is not something that comes without its cost and expenses, right?
No, it's certainly not. And I'll try and cover that off as well as I can. I mean, you just talked about like 20-year journey. I mean, we started with 2 of us and now there's 300 of us, and all those staff need looking after and to be paid and invested in. And, we need a lot of subject matter experts within the business. Things are much more difficult than they used to be. Our investment into technology, into, mobile technologies, investment into things like social media, but actually things that are far behind the scenes, like security, the cost of security and running data ecosystems, and, as you become more enterprising, CRMs and things like that, it all adds up. But I guess the answer to, does it cost us anything to put a job on the job board? Well, not really. But actually it's what we do with that job. And all job boards don't just stick the job on their own site. They have to circulate those jobs. They need to then try to attract candidates to those jobs. And that's where the cost is considerably increased in the last 12 to 18 months. I mean, I think certainly myself, everyone thought we'd come out of COVID and there was going to be thousands of job seekers, but it's actually the opposite. I don't know whether people had saved money, could afford not to work, people retired. I know the crossover with Brexit, lots of Labour leaving the UK, but candidates have become, or job seekers have become far more demanding in the kind of jobs they want to do. And that's leaving a considerable shortage of candidates. And therefore there's a lot more infighting amongst us competitors to attract candidates. So costs have gone up quite considerably to the point where I'd say for us, in some cases, fourfold. And look, if you get it right, job boards are very profitable businesses. So we're able to stomach and swallow a lot of that. But some, unfortunately, does have to be passed on. And with more data available and the way we operate, ranking algorithms, you want to give everyone a fair shot at getting the apps. You just have to have your pricing model right. The other area which I think has made a considerable difference is programmatic. We used to be able to buy traffic from an awful lot of partners on a flat fee basis per registration per app, and kept our costs for considerable amounts of traffic fairly low and fairly stable. But now you've got dozens of agencies and digital recruitment businesses and job boards and apps all working programmatically, which as again really increased the cost of certain applications and certain candidates. Don't get me wrong, everybody in the job board world as a job board should be absolutely striving to attract direct candidates through TV campaigns or radio campaigns, offline campaigns, SEO, and providing a good experience for candidates to return and engage again. So yeah, I mean, even those advertising costs, real estate, even now, real estate on trains and tubes, trying to get it within either side of the strikes is getting quite expensive.
It's a good point. I mean, that's one of the, that's your kind of trademark, isn't it? The outdoor market is where, that's your trademark marketing kind of position. For many people, you ask them about, CV library, and they'll often refer to an outdoor ad that they've seen. But of course, traffic comes in from a lot of different places.
Clearly, I mean, from day one, I've always been heavily focused on buying advertising around commuters because I believe that's the number one place to target them. And we've always avoided And whether it's the right thing or not, but in my opinion, it is. We've avoided sports and leisure for things, where people are going to switch off from work, but on the commute, they're always there thinking, do I really want to be doing this? And with less commuters, it's slightly harder to reach them. So we've had to come up with more innovative ways.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I haven't actually thought about the strikes and the impact that may well have in terms of footfall. I mean, it feels as though we're in a little bit of another evolution of job boards. You mentioned programmatic in terms of the way that you're sourcing some of the candidates, but you guys also have just acquired Brilliant Jobs, right? Programmatic.
Correct. Yes, we made that acquisition about 6 months ago. It's been a great acquisition so far. We try to build a programmatic product ourselves, but with a transformation of our technology and new platforms being built and everything being done, we decided to acquire a business which also helped us bring some talent from that business into our business, and has so far been very successful. It's expedited the way that we can service clients who wish to buy programmatically in the UK, and certainly for our international growth as well.
So that's an actual piece of technology then? It's a programmatic tool?
Yes, it's a programmatic platform which enables us to bid across a huge network of sites and be able to deliver candidates based on CPC or CPA.
Yeah. Programmatic is...
Which is the duration, which is what we offered currently before.
Yeah. I mean, kind of duration to programmatic, it seems to be that start of that evolution for job boards. Obviously there are a lot of programmatic providers out there. I don't know quite what you'd call them, or aggregators. From an adoption point of view for recruitment businesses, it's been a bit slow. We've covered this topic off on some previous podcasts, but adoption has been a bit slow for recruitment agencies because it's quite complex and takes quite a long time to get set up in comparison to taking 100 jobs. And with a business like CV Library, they could ask for 100 jobs at 12 o'clock, and by 1 o'clock they've got logins and they're posting jobs. Programmatic doesn't seem to be quite that quick at the minute. I mean, what's your kind of take on it so far? And is it inevitable that we're going to move to that?
So that without trying to cause too much controversy.
Oh, we want controversy, Lee. This is what we want. We want controversy.
Yeah, but look, I sat there in many events in the last 5 years and fought hard against thinking that programmatic would be the way forward, and that duration-based always offered more value. I actually still stick with the belief that actually duration-based at this time still offers better value for money. Less transparency perhaps on performance, and actually the corporates just want to have to pay as you go on performance. The problem we have is, I think the retcons recognise, or staffing agencies recognise, that it is better value for money, being able to post a duration-based ad. And but let's face it, I do think in certain circumstances some like to keep ads live as long as possible because it fills internal talent pools and helps lead to other opportunities. The trouble is, now that a lot of players and job boards are turning to a programmatic algorithm, if the staffing agencies don't start to take the adoption of programmatic, their ads will start to decline in performance. I don't think we're quite there yet. And I'm not sure how some of our competitors are now running their algorithms on their job boards. But if you certainly look at LinkedIn, Indeed, I mean, everything's performance-based. however much you paid really depends on how high you appear in the search. And obviously they've been hugely successful, and there's an awful lot of job boards that will be following their lead. So I don't see many new job boards appearing in the market that are duration based anymore. And I do think, whilst you could argue it's a fairer way to charge for applications and candidates, I do think long term it's more expensive, and it's certainly, as I said earlier, pushed up the costs for duration based job boards like CV Library predominantly is to attract candidates.
I think that's also one of the things that meant that the adoption has been quite slow when you compare the cost of a performance-based campaign versus a duration-based campaign. Nearly always the performance costs more, and the conversation goes back to, well, that's how much it costs to attract those type of candidates, and maybe to a certain extent we're back to the job board you were saying earlier, almost weathering some of the storm in some areas in terms of the cost of attracting that candidate, and in others making more money or less money. So it's almost like the job board is the conduit to getting those candidates. And ultimately, I always think that it's the clients they're not really bothered about how they're being charged. They just want good quality candidates. And if they get good quality candidates, what they see is value for money, then they're happy, whether or not they're paying £10 a job or 50p a click. The outcome is, did I get a good candidate?
Absolutely. And the job of the job board is to deliver good candidates at the end of the day. And that's what we're all striving to do. And just, unfortunately, you have slightly less control when you're working with a client on programmatic. The candidate experience can be more painful as people cut and change their jobs so regularly with programmatic versus a more static ad. For instance, a candidate could receive a jobs by email tomorrow morning from someone that posted a 28-day ad and read the email 3 days later and still be able to apply for it. The chances are, if it's programmatically posted in the dynamic feed, that job will have changed in some form, having new unique URL, and the job will be dead. It costs us to deliver the job to the inbox and to pay for potentially clicks that don't lead anywhere. And obviously the candidate doesn't end up applying for the job and has the frustration, and then the actual employer loses the application. So there is more to be thought about.
So I guess the theory's there with it, isn't it? And as you said, you look at the likes of Indeed, you look at all of the other programmatically or performance-based boards. They're all doing well. However you define that. But there's more that needs to happen, and that's why I said when we're at that kind of, feels like we're at the start of the next sort of evolution of job boards. And it's interesting you mentioned about recruitment businesses slowly having to start to adopt some performance stuff in their campaigns.
I think where you've got volume, if you're a big staffing agency with a lot of jobs, you just need to identify which jobs are being fulfilled easily, which ones you get lots of applications for, and those are the obvious ones to stick with duration. But there is always going to be, what I would say is, the harder to fill jobs. Programmatic does give us a much better opportunity to work on a cost per app or a cost per click, to be able to invest significantly more, to deliver for that job. I mean, previously you would have a very flat rate for duration, as in it would be one rate for your entire inventory of jobs. So let's just say staffing agency had 1,000 jobs and they paid, I don't know, for argument's sake, let's just say it's £10 a job. That will be a flat rate. Well, for £10 a job, you can deliver admin people, you can deliver others. But if you're looking for data scientists or cybersecurity experts or rocket scientists or whatever it might be, it's really, really difficult to deliver at that level. The beauty of the programmatic does enable us to be able to change the pricing per role based on application or per click. So actually we can go out and we can tender more for applications to that job, so we can make it perform better. And I just think there is a challenge there for staffing agencies to recognise which roles they can get, which are more challenging roles to fill, which actually if they spend more, and I know it sounds like a sales pitch, but if they spend more, they can actually hopefully fulfill those jobs better.
Sort of goes back a little bit to some of the, conversations that you have with clients around taking, either premium, like you have a standard job and then you have like a premium job or however, and having, a few of those in your inventory we talk to clients about that, that you'd have different job types for different, or inventory types for the different jobs that you're recruiting for. So maybe it's something similar along those lines.
And we do that, and those jobs do outperform standard jobs quite considerably. Where the real game changer is that before, it doesn't matter if we'd have paid more money for a premium job to all our partners, for instance, the job would never have been ranked higher. But now those partners are ranking based on what you're paying. You can actually make a difference to the candidates you can attract. But again, as I said, it does actually have a negative impact on some of your standard jobs, because some people are just, for the sake of it, I don't know, say a new business enters the market and wants to take a big share line, because they'll just pay a fortune to that partner to try and promote all those jobs. All of a sudden, it's just having a lot on effect on all the other job boards.
Yeah.
I can kind of take it back to an experience I remember almost 20 years ago, when we used to use a company called Overture, which was eventually bought out by Yahoo. And I remember they used to have a very transparent pricing on what you pay per click, and we would pay something like, I don't know, 10p a click on admin jobs. And I remember that the Royal Navy was paying like 60p a click on every single job category you could. So we'd have everybody all of a sudden had to pay more just to advertise any job, because there's someone in the Royal Navy or the media company they were using decided to pay like 40p more than anybody else by mistake. And that had a significant impact back then, and it's something you can refer back to that now.
It's funny, isn't it? A few things don't change, do they, in terms of, trying to sort of flood the market and influence the price for everything as we go. But, like we come back, a lot of it comes back down to supply and demand. And if you've got less candidates in the marketplace, then, that's a significant challenge that everybody has been faced with, whether or not it's programmatic performance, whatever it is, that's been a challenge for people. And I guess we'll see how that's going to pan out this year. But what do you, what would you say to recruiters? You've already kind of said, start to at least think about having some sort of performance element to your campaign. But, what would you say to recruiters for the coming year in terms of advertising, and attracting candidates?
Well, look, I think you have to have a sensible balanced mix of everything to try and attract candidates. And, you need to be looking at every avenue. I mean, unfortunately, I think the job boards always get bashed quite heavily for the necessary evil, but we are still the number one for delivering applications. And my recommendation is speak in depth to your account manager about how you can improve your performance, like what options are available to you. Be open to understanding the value to using different products like featured jobs and programmatic. And maybe this might sound like a bit of a pitch, but CV databases aren't programmatic. So if you want to buy CV database licenses and do the hard work of searching and sifting through everything, then it could be considerably more cost effective. And unfortunately, the corporates, A, don't have the resource, and B, don't have the desire to search. So they are inflating the costs of job advertising.
It's a really good point. That's a really, really good point, actually, isn't it? Because, so much of, and job boards get bashed around a little bit, and, recruitment businesses also get bashed around a bit as well. But actually, if you've got someone that's prepared to go through the database, search, contact, qualify candidates, then, that's why there are so many recruitment businesses still doing so well in the UK when, they're constantly being bashed themselves for, charging for, there's a lot of similarities between the job board and the recruitment agency, actually, when you think about their how necessary they are, but, seem to be the first one to be bashed at any point.
But I absolutely agree. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people understand the reality of what a recruitment agency needs to do. I mean, we have small businesses that'll come and post £149 or whatever the cost is at the time to post a single job, and they almost expect it just to fill itself. Well, it just doesn't quite work like that. And then I don't think the reality of understanding that it's not our fault that a candidate hasn't turned up to interview if you haven't prepped them or encouraged them and done all the right things, which a recruiter would do in the background quietly. I think we've always been incredibly loyal to recruitment agencies. It's still the lifeblood of CV Library. Unfortunately, I think they just had a tougher time with some of the other players in the market, recognizing that there's more, there's more money potentially or whatever it is. They've just gone after the corporate market and forgotten about the recruitment agencies that got them to where they are now. And we don't want to do that.
Well, long may that continue. Lee, I'm really getting stuck into this, and I'm conscious of time because we're flying through time, as we always do. So I'm going to come out of job boards and pricing and performance, and always end on my strange but rather random but quite interesting question around food. I'm a bit of a foodie. So question is, you're entertaining. You wanna show your guests a good time. You're either cooking or taking people out. And I did see something actually that you had entertained some people from CV Library. So maybe you might want to duck this into your answer. But you want to take someone out, nice meal. You're going to cook them something. What are you cooking? What's on the menu?
Oh, that's a really difficult one. So I'm definitely not a fantastic cook. That's not where my skills lie. Hopefully they're slightly stronger in business world. I'll be the first person to say I'm not cooking. Let's just go out for something to eat and try and host them a good night and entertain them elsewhere. Certainly something Japanese or Asian would be my favourite. But that said, I have recently relocated to South Africa, where I'm talking to you from now.
Wow.
And what we call barbecuing, they call a braai, is a very, very important social event in South African culture. They're big meat eaters. I'm not a huge meat eater, but I'm certainly no vegan. And so I've been told by my better half that I better polish up my braaiing skills pretty quick. So I would like to think that doing a really nice sirloin on the braai in the next few weeks would be the way I would choose to entertain and feed people with. Obviously, lots of nice red wine passed around and some smiley faces.
That sounds good. So you've got to up your, and I hadn't heard of that before, braai skills to for social acceptance. Social community acceptance.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you the biggest challenge. We turn out a barbecue in like 45 minutes in the UK. The braaiing goes on for hours. It's literally 2 to 3 hours. You nibble away, you feed people straight off the fire with samples on boards, meat boards and all sorts. It's not really a sit down affair. So it does, you definitely need a shower. Thinking of charcoal at the end of it.
Sounds brilliant. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I'm up for that for sure. And yeah, not heard that before. So always learning, always learning something new. Hey, brilliant. That was great. I knew we were gonna have a very straight up, honest no nonsense approach today, and that's exactly as it's been. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on. Hopefully that's been useful for those watching, and you enjoyed that. But no, thank you, Lee. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. And thanks to everyone that listens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So if you are listening or watching and you have some feedback, some comments and thoughts, you either agree or disagree, then do let us know. Do get in touch. Otherwise, come back again soon. And thanks very much for everyone. And thanks very much to you, Lee. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.